The crash had shaken everything. Hannah Kim pressed her face against the observation window and watched the alien sun rise over the strange purple forests of Cathara. 3 months had passed since the colony ship New Dawn had fallen from the sky. Like a broken bird, the ship would never fly again. We were supposed to reach New Earth, her father, Dr. Jin Kim, had said many times, but this will have to do. 2,000 people now called this hostile world home. They had no choice. Hannah checked her supply pack one more time. Water tablets, medical kit, sample containers, and the scanner her father had built from ship parts. At 19, she was the youngest person allowed on scouting missions. But she knew more about alien biology than most of the adults. "Remember the rules," Day Park said as he loaded his rifle. The security chief was a hard man with scars on his hands from the crash. "Stay within the safe zone. No contact with large predators. If you see anything bigger than a dog, you run." Hannah nodded, but her mind was already on other things. The forests. Here were full of life, unlike anything from Earth. Plants that moved like animals. Creatures that seemed to think before they acted. Yesterday, she had watched a small bird-like animal solve a puzzle to get food from a mechanical trap. That kind of intelligence was rare. "I will be back before sunset," she promised. Minho Lee waved goodbye from the engineering section, her childhood. Friend had grown taller during their years on the ship, but he still worried about her like a big brother. "Be careful out there, Hannah." The forest was quiet when she entered it. Too quiet. Usually the trees were full of sounds from the native animals. Today something had scared them all away. Hannah followed a stream deeper into the woods. The water here was clean, and the fish were safe to eat. She took samples and made notes about the plant life. Everything seemed normal until she heard the sound. It was low and deep, like nothing she had ever heard before. It came from somewhere. Ahead, near a cluster of crystal formations that jutted up from the forest floor like giant teeth, she should have turned back. Day Park had been very clear about the rules, but the sound came again, and this time it sounded different. It sounded like pain. Hannah crept forward through the thick plants until she could see. What was making the noise? The creature was huge, bigger than any earth animal she had ever seen. It lay on its side near the crystals, and she could see dark, liquid pooling beneath its body. Blood. The thing was dying. It had 6 legs, each one as thick as a tree trunk. Its body was covered in scales that looked like living crystal, changing color as the light hit them. A long tail ended in spikes that could probably punch through steel. Its head was the size of a small car, with eyes that glowed soft blue in the shadows. One of those eyes was looking right at her. Hannah froze. Every instinct told her to run. This was exactly the kind of predator that had killed 3 colonists last month. But the creature did not move to attack her. It just watched her with that strange blue gaze. She could see the wound now. Something had torn a deep cut along the creature's side. The edges looked burned, as if made by some kind of energy weapon, not a natural injury. The creature made that low sound again. Hannah realized it was not a roar or a growl. It was a call for help. "No," she whispered. "What happened to you?" Against every rule she had been taught, Hannah stepped closer. The creature's eye followed her movement, but it did not try to attack. Up close she could see that it was breathing hard, the way wounded animals did when they were in shock. She opened her medical kit. The bandages and medicines inside were meant for humans, but some things worked on any living creature. Pain was pain. Blood loss was blood loss. "I know you probably do not understand me," she said, as she approached the wound. "But I want to help you." The creature went very still when she touched its side. The scales felt warm and smooth, like polished stone. The wound was deep but clean. Whatever had hurt this animal had missed the vital organs. Hannah worked quickly. She cleaned the wound with antiseptic and sealed the worst parts with medical foam. The creature never moved, even when the medicine must have stung. It just watched her with those calm blue eyes. "There," she said when she was finished. "That should help with the bleeding." She sat back on her heels and looked at the massive head. The creature was still watching her. There was something in its gaze that made her think of the puzzle solving. Bird. Intelligence. Real intelligence. You understand me? Do not you? She asked. The creature blinked once. A slow, deliberate blink. Hannah felt her heart race. She reached out slowly and touched the side of the creature's head. The scales there were smaller and softer, like smooth glass. The creature closed its eyes and made a sound like a cat purring, but much deeper. I think you are going to be okay, she told it, but you need to rest and let that wound heal. She stood up and packed her medical supplies. The sun was getting low, and she needed to return to the colony. But as she turned to leave, she heard movement behind her. The creature was getting to its feet. 6 powerful legs pushed its massive body upright. It was even bigger standing up, tall enough that its head was level with the tree branches. It moved carefully, favoring the injured side. Hannah backed away slowly. Now that it was standing, the creature looked much more dangerous. Those claws could tear her apart without effort. But instead of attacking, the creature lowered its great head until it was close to her level. It looked into her eyes for a long moment. Then it touched her shoulder gently with the tip of its snout. The touch sent a strange feeling through Hannah's mind, like someone had spoken to her without using words. Images flashed through her thoughts. The creature running through the forest, strange lights in the sky, pain and fear, and then ... gratitude. You were trying to say thank you, she whispered. The creature stepped back and made that purring sound again. Then it turned and walked deeper into the forest, moving slowly but steadily. Hannah watched until it disappeared among the trees. Her hands were shaking and her mind was spinning with what had just happened. She had touched an alien predator, and it had touched her back. More than that, it had tried to communicate with her. She looked down at her shoulder where the creature had touched her. There was no mark, but she could still feel the warmth of that brief contact. The walk back to the colony seemed to take forever. By the time she reached the safety of the walls, the sun had set and the security lights were on. Day Park was waiting for her at the gate. You're late, he said. What took so long? Hannah looked back toward the forest. She could not see the creature, but somehow she knew it was still out there. Still alive because she had helped it.
I got
Lost, she lied, but I found my way back. She did not tell anyone about what had happened, not yet. But as she lay in her bunk that night, she kept thinking about those intelligent blue eyes and the feeling of connection when the creature had touched her mind. Tomorrow. She had to see if the creature was still there. She had to know if what she felt was real. Hannah returned to the forest the next morning before anyone else was awake. She carried more medical supplies and some dried meat from their food stores. If the creature was still alive, it would need to eat while it healed. She found it resting beside the crystal formations where she had left it. The great head lifted when she approached, and those blue eyes focused on her with what looked like recognition. Hello again, she said softly. How are you feeling? The creature made a low rumbling sound that seemed friendly. When Hannah came closer, she could see that the wound looked better. The medical foam had done its job, and the bleeding had stopped. Completely, she sat down on a fallen log near the creature's head. I brought you some food. I do not know what you usually eat, but this might help. She placed the dried meat on the ground between them. The creature sniffed at it carefully, then picked up a piece with surprising delicacy. Its teeth were sharp, but it chewed slowly, as if thinking about the taste. While it ate, Hannah studied the creature more carefully. In daylight, she could see details she had missed before. The scales were not just crystal-like. They actually seemed to store and reflect light. Patterns moved across its body like slow lightning. Its claws retracted, like a cat's when not in use. Everything about it spoke of intelligence and careful design. You are not just some wild animal, are you? She asked. You are something much more. The creature finished eating and moved closer to her. This time, when it touched her mind, the connection was stronger. Images flowed between them more clearly. She saw the creature's view of the forest, much sharper and more detailed than human sight. She felt its gratitude for the food and healing. And underneath it all, she sensed a deep loneliness that made her heart ache. Without thinking, reached out and placed her hand on the creature's snout. You have been alone for a long time, have not you? The creature closed its eyes and leaned into her touch. In that moment, Hannah felt something she had never experienced before, a bond that went deeper than words or species. This magnificent being was not her enemy, it was her friend. "I will call you Roku," she said. "It means 6 for your 6 legs." Roku made that purring sound again, and Hannah knew he approved. She spent the whole morning with him, learning how their mental connection worked. It was not telepathy exactly, more like sharing emotions and simple ideas through touch. Roku showed her his knowledge of the forest, which plants were safe and which were dangerous. In return, Hannah shared her memories of Earth and the journey through space. But as the sun climbed higher, she knew she had to return to the colony. People would start looking for her soon. "I have to go," she told Roku, "but I will come back tomorrow. Promise." Roku seemed to understand. He touched her mind one more time, sharing a feeling of patience and trust. Then he settled back down beside the crystals to rest. Hannah made it back to the colony just before lunch. Her father was waiting for her in the science lab, looking worried. "Where have you been all morning?" Dr. Jin Kim asked. "Day Park was looking for you. There are reports of large predator tracks near the eastern wall." "I was collecting samples," Hannah said, which was partly true. She had gathered some plant specimens on her way back. "Did anyone get hurt?" "No, but it has everyone nervous. Council is talking about restricting all outside activities until we know more about these creatures." Hannah felt her stomach clench. If they stopped the scouting missions, she would not be able to visit Roku. "I am sure it is nothing dangerous, Father. Most of the animals here seem to avoid humans. I hope you are right." For 3 days, Hannah managed to visit Roku without anyone noticing. Each day their bond grew stronger. She learned that he could understand human speech even if he could not speak it. He showed her parts of the forest that no human had seen, places where strange ruins poked up through the trees like broken teeth. Roku was healing quickly. Soon he was walking around normally, though he still favored his injured side. Hannah began to realize just how powerful he was. She watched him casually push over a tree to reach some fruit growing at the top. His claws could cut through stone like paper. He was a living weapon, but he was gentle with her. On the 4th day, everything changed. Hannah was sitting with Roka by a small stream when they heard voices approaching through the forest. Human voices. "A search party," she whispered too. "Roku," but it was too late. The creature was too big to hide, and the voices were too close. Minho Lee pushed through the bushes first, followed by 2 security guards. He stopped dead when he saw Hannah sitting next to the massive predator. "Hannah," he shouted, "get away from that thing." The security guards raised their weapons, but Hannah jumped to her feet and spread her arms wide. "No, do not shoot. He is not dangerous." "Ah, you insane?" one of the guards yelled. "That thing could kill you in seconds?" Roku had gone very still when the humans appeared. Hannah could feel his confusion and growing alarm through their mental link. He did not understand why these other humans seemed hostile. "Please," Hannah said, "just listen to me. His name is Roku and he is intelligent. He understands us. He's not going to hurt anyone." "Hannah, step away from it right now," Minho said. His voice was tight with fear. "That is not a pet. That is an apex predator. You do not understand. We have a connection. He saved my life and I saved his. We are friends." The guards looked at each other uncertainly. They had clear orders to shoot any large predators on sight, but Hannah was standing right next to the creature. "Miss Kim," one of them said carefully, "we need you to move away from the animal so we can neutralize the threat." "He is not a threat," Hannah insisted. But even as she said it, Roku was getting to his feet. All 6 legs tensed as he prepared to defend himself if necessary. The sight of the creature rising to its full height made all 3 men take a step backward. Roku was enormous, easily twice the size of an earth elephant. His crystal scales caught the sunlight and threw it back in brilliant flashes. He looked like something from a nightmare. "See?" Minho said. "Look how big it is. Hannah, it could kill you by accident just by stepping on you." As if to prove his point, Roku took a step forward to better protect Hannah. His massive foot came down on a fallen branch, crushing it to splinters with a sound like breaking bones. The security guards raised their weapons again. "That is it. Miss Kim, move away now, or we shoot." "Stop," Hannah screamed. She pressed herself against Roku's side, feeling his muscles tense under her hands. Through their link, she could sense his growing agitation. He was starting to see the other humans as a threat to her. "Roku, no," she whispered. "They are my friends. They do not understand, but they are not enemies." But it was too late. Roku let out a sound that was not quite a roar, but seemed to shake the trees around them. It was a warning, clear and unmistakable. The guards opened fire. Their energy weapons lit up the forest with blue light, but their shots went wide. Hannah had thrown herself in front of Roku, and they could not risk hitting her. "I will not let you hurt him." She shouted over the weapon fire. "Okay, you could have killed all 3 men in seconds," but he held back because Hannah was there. Instead, he used his tail to sweep a fallen tree toward the guards, forcing them to dive for cover in the confusion. He grabbed Hannah gently in one massive claw and leaped away through the forest. His 6 legs carried them both up into the canopy, where the humans could not follow. From high in the trees, Hannah looked back to see Minho and the guards staring up at them in shock and fear. "Hannah," Minho called, "come back," but she was already too far away to hear him clearly, as Roku carried her deeper into the forest. Hannah realized that everything had changed. She could never go back to the colony now. They would never understand what Roku really was. They would only see a monster that had kidnapped their friend. And maybe they were right. Maybe she was crazy to trust a creature that could crush her like a bug. But when Roku finally set her down safely on a high branch and looked at her with those calm blue eyes, Hannah knew she had made the right choice, even if it meant she was now as much in exile as he was. Hannah had been living in the forest with Roku for 2 weeks when she made the discovery that changed everything. The colony had tried to find her at first. She could hear the search parties calling her name through the trees. Day Park led armed groups deep into the forest, but Roku always knew where they were, long before they got close. His senses were far better than any humans. "They think you kidnapped me," Hannah told him, as they watched another search party from high in the canopy. "They do not understand that I chose to stay with you." Roku made a soft sound that she had learned meant sadness. Through their mental link, she felt his guilt. He blamed himself for taking her away from her own kind. "Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It is not your fault," she said, stroking the smooth scales on his neck. "I could not let them hurt you. You are my friend." But friend felt like too small a word now. After 2 weeks of sharing thoughts and feelings, Roku felt more like family. Like the brother she had never had. Living in the wild was harder than Hannah had expected. Roku provided food and protection, but she missed her father and Minho. She missed her soft bed and hot meals. Most of all, she missed being able to talk to other humans. You tried to fill that emptiness. He showed her wonders no human had ever seen. Flowers that sang in the morning light. Streams that flowed uphill around magnetic rocks. Creatures that lived in the trees and built cities from living wood. "Your world is beautiful," she told him. "But it is not really your world, is it?" This question had been bothering her for days. Roku was too different from the other animals on Cathara. His intelligence was beyond anything that should have evolved naturally. He was like a masterpiece of engineering disguised as a living creature. When she asked this question, Roku went very still. She felt a wave of ancient sadness flow through their connection. Then he stood up and began walking deeper into the forest than they had ever gone before. "Where are we going?" Hannah asked. Instead of answering with feelings or images, Roku did something new, projected a single word directly into her mind, as clear as if he had spoken it aloud. "Home." They traveled for hours through parts of the forest that seemed older and wilder than anywhere else. The trees here were enormous, their trunks so wide that 10 people holding hands could not reach around them. Vines hung like curtains, and the air itself seemed to glow with a soft green light. Finally, they reached a place where the forest floor dropped away into a massive crater. But it was not empty. Rising from the center were structures that took Hannah's breath away. They were clearly buildings, but unlike anything humans had ever built. They seemed to grow out of the ground like plants, all curves and flowing lines. Some were tall as skyscrapers, others spread wide like mushrooms. All of them were covered in the same crystal-like material as Roku's scales. "A city," Hannah whispered. "You built a city?" Roku carried her down into the crater on his back. Up close, the buildings were even more amazing. The walls were transparent in some places, showing rooms and corridors inside. Gardens grew on every level, fed by streams that seemed to flow through the air itself. But the city was empty. No light shone in the windows. No movement stirred in the streets. It was beautiful and dead. ROKU stopped in the center of the city before the largest building. This one was different from the others. It was darker, more solid, and covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. "What is this place?" Hannah asked. Roku lowered his head and touched it to a panel beside the building's entrance. The symbols began to glow, and the wall dissolved like mist. Beyond was a chamber filled with soft blue light. Inside, the walls were covered with images, not painted or carved, but somehow living in the crystal itself. As Hannah watched, the images began to move, telling a story that was both beautiful and terrible. She saw Cathara as it had been long ago. Not just forest and wilderness, but a world of crystal cities and flying gardens. Creatures like Roku filled the images, but there were others too. Smaller beings with delicate features and wings like butterfly glass. All of them working together, building, creating, living in harmony. Then, the images changed. The sky turned dark with massive shapes that blotted out the sun. Ships, if they could be called that. They looked more like living things, all teeth and tentacles and hungry eyes. When they landed, creatures poured out that made Hannah's stomach turn. They were wrong in every way that mattered. Not evil, but something worse. Empty, hungry for everything and satisfied by nothing. "The Devourers," Roku said. The word appearing in her mind with the weight of absolute horror. The images showed the war that followed. Roku's people fought bravely, but they were not warriors by nature. They were builders and gardeners and artists. The Devourers were nothing but appetite and destruction. City after city fell. The crystal spires were shattered and consumed. The flying gardens crashed to earth. The delicate winged people were the first to die, too gentle to survive what came next. But Roku's people, the Guardians, were different. They were stronger, faster, built for protection rather than creation. They fought with everything they had. Buying time for a desperate plan, the images showed great chambers being built deep underground. Technology that could preserve life for thousands of years. The surviving population of Cathara went into these chambers to sleep, waiting for the day when the Devourers would move on to consume other worlds. "You went to sleep," Hannah said. "All of you, but you woke up." Why? More images flowed. The Devourers had indeed left, but not because they were finished with Cathara. They were following some pattern, some cycle that took them across the galaxy in a great spiral. They would return when the spiral brought them back. The Guardians were programmed to wake when certain conditions were met, when new intelligence appeared on the world, when technology powerful enough to attract the Devourers was detected, when the human colony ship had crashed on Cathara. Its energy signature had triggered Roku's awakening. "We brought them back," Hannah said, understanding flooding through her. "Our ship, our technology. We called the Devourers here." Roku touched her mind with confirmation and regret. The colony's presence meant that the Devourers would return soon. They were probably already on their way. "But why are you alone?" she asked. "Where are the others?" New images showed the sleeping chambers scattered across the planet. Thousands of them, hidden in deep caves and beneath ancient ruins. The Guardians had been awakened one by one over the centuries as different conditions were met. But most had died alone, unable to find others of their kind. The planet was too big and they were too few. ROKU was the last, the final Guardian to wake up. And he had awakened not because of any programmed condition, but because of something unexpected. Something the ancient Kitharans had never planned for. He had awakened because he had formed a bond with an alien mind. "With Hannah, you were supposed to fight alone," she said. "But you found me instead." The images changed one final time, showing something that made Hannah's heart race. Deep beneath the ruined city, vast chambers full of sleeping forms. Not just Guardians, but hundreds of other Kitharans. Scientists, engineers, artists, all waiting for someone to wake them. But the awakening process required something that had been lost: the ability to communicate across species barriers, to translate thought and emotion between completely different forms of consciousness. The ancient Kitharans had never learned to truly communicate with other intelligent species. It was their greatest weakness and the reason they had fallen to the Devourers. But Roku had learned. Through his bond with Hannah, he had developed something his people had never possessed: the ability to bridge the gap between minds that evolved under different stars. "You can wake them," Hannah said. "All of them. But you need me to help you translate." Roku's agreement filled her mind like warm sunlight. Together, they could do what no Kitharan had ever done alone. They could unite two species in a way that went beyond words or weapons. They could prepare for war, as they stood in the ancient chambers surrounded by the history of a fallen civilization. Hannah felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. The Devourers were coming. Her people had no idea what was heading their way, but they were not defenseless. Not anymore. "We have to warn the colony," she said. "And we have to wake your people, all of them." Roku touched her mind with fierce determination. For the first time since his awakening, he was not alone. And for the first time in thousands of years, his people had hope. The question was whether they would have enough time to use it above them. The stars were already beginning to change as massive shapes moved between them and the light. The Devourers were coming home to Cathara, and this time they would find it defended. Getting back to the colony was harder than leaving it had been. Day Park had tripled the guard patrols and set up motion sensors around the perimeter. He was determined that nothing would get close to the settlement again. Hannah crouched in the bushes at the edge of the forest, watching the guards pace back and forth along the wall. Roku waited deeper in the trees, his massive form hidden by shadows and careful stillness. "I have to go alone," she had told him. "If they see you, they will start shooting before I can say anything." Through their mental link, she felt his worry and reluctance. He did not want to let her face danger without him. But he understood that his presence would only make things worse. The guards changed shifts at midnight. Hannah knew their routines from her father's work schedules. She slipped between the patrols and climbed over the wall at the weakest point, where the crash damage had never been fully repaired. The colony was dark and quiet. Most people were asleep, but she could see lights in the council building. Were probably still arguing about what to do about her disappearance. She made her way to her father's quarters, moving carefully through the shadows. Dr. Jin Kim was awake, sitting at his desk with a cup of cold coffee and a pile of reports. He looked like he had not slept in days. "Father," she whispered from the doorway. He spun around so fast he knocked over his coffee cup. "Hannah, thank God you are alive." He rushed to embrace her, and she felt tears on his cheek. "We thought that creature had killed you." "I am fine, Father. But I need you to listen to me. All of you. There is something coming that will destroy everything if we do not act now." Dr. Kim held her at arm's length, studying her face. "You look different. Older somehow. What happened to you out there?" "I learned the truth about this world, about why we crashed here, about what is coming for us." Her father's expression grew concerned. "Hannah, you have been through a terrible ordeal. You need medical attention, not to be making up stories about alien threats. I am not making anything up." Hannah's voice rose, and her father shushed her quickly. "Keep your voice down. Half the colony thinks you are dead, and the other half thinks you have lost your mind. If Day Park finds you here, then bring me to the council. Let me tell them what I know." Dr. Kim hesitated. "What exactly do you think you know?" Hannah pulled out her scanner, which she had been carrying since the day. She found Roku. She had used it to record everything in the ancient city, the images of the Devourers and the sleeping Kitharans, the star charts showing the enemy's approach pattern. "I have proof," she said. "Real evidence. The creature you think kidnapped me is actually trying to protect us. He is the last guardian of an ancient civilization that was destroyed by something called the Devourers." Her father looked at the scanner readings, frowning. "These energy signatures, I have never seen anything like them. Because they are not from this world. Devourers consume entire planets, Father. They strip away the atmosphere and devour everything living. And they are coming here because our ship's energy signature called them. Dr. Kim sat down heavily. Hannah, even if what you are saying is true, what can we do about it? We are just colonists. We have no weapons that could fight. Something like that. But Roku's people do. They've been waiting in stasis for thousands of years. They have technology and knowledge that could help us fight back. They need someone who can bridge the communication gap between our species. And you think you can do that? I know I can. Roku and I have been sharing thoughts and memories for weeks now. I understand how their minds work, can help them wake up and coordinate with us. Dr. Kim looked at his daughter for a long moment. She was telling the truth. He could see that. But the truth she was telling sounded impossible. The council will never believe this, he said finally. Then we have to make them believe. Because if we do not, everyone in this colony is going to die. Her father stood up and paced to the window. Outside, the colony looked peaceful and secure. It was hard to imagine that death was coming from the stars. Day Park has been saying that you were brainwashed by the creature, that it has some kind of mental control over you. That is not true. Roku saved my life, and I saved his. We chose to trust each other, but you did disappear for weeks. And you are asking us to trust an alien predator based on visions and mental communications. You have to admit it sounds ... crazy. I know how it sounds. But look at the evidence, Father. The readings on my scanner show technology that is thousands of years more advanced than ours. The star charts show objects moving toward our system at impossible speeds. This is not imagination. Dr. Kim studied the scanner data again. As a scientist, he could not ignore what he was seeing. The energy signatures were real. The stellar movement patterns were consistent with large objects under intelligent control. Even if I believe you, he said, convincing the council is another. Day Park has been pushing for a military response. He wants to organize hunting parties to track down and kill your creature friend. His name is Roku, Hannah said firmly. And if they try to hunt him, he will defend himself. He could destroy this entire colony without effort, but he is not, because he knows I care about the people here. It is not exactly reassuring. It should be. It proves that he can be reasoned with, that he understands the difference between enemies and innocents. A knock at the door interrupted them. Dr. Kim, I saw lights in your quarters. Is everything all right? It was Minho's voice. Hannah's heart jumped. She had missed her friend terribly. Come in, Minho, Dr. Kim said. But prepare yourself for a shock. Minho entered the room and stopped. Dead when he saw Hannah. You were alive, we thought. When that monster took you, ... Roku did not take me. I went with him willingly, Roku. You named it. He is not an it. He is intelligent and kind, and he is trying to save all of us from something much worse than himself. Minho sat down hard in the nearest chair. Hannah, what has that thing done to your mind? You're talking about it like it is human, not human. Better than human in some ways. It does not lie or hate or fear things just because they are different. He judges others by their actions, not their appearance. It is a predator. It is built to kill. Yes, he is. No, but he was built to kill the enemies of his people, not innocent creatures. There is a difference. Minho looked at Dr. Kim. We're sure she needs help. Medical help. Whatever that creature did to her. I am not sick or brainwashed, Hannah said. I am trying to save your life and the lives of everyone in this colony. But I need you to trust me. How can I trust you when you have been living with a monster for weeks? Because I am still me. I am still your friend. And I would never ask you to do anything that would hurt you or anyone else. Minho studied her face, looking for signs of the girl he had grown up with. You do look the same, but the things you were saying are hard to believe. I know. But in a few days, when the sky starts to change and the stars begin to move, you will understand. I just hope it will not be too late by then. Dr. Kim made a decision. I will speak to the council. I will present your evidence and ask them to listen to what you have to say. Thank you, Father, but I cannot promise they will believe you. And I cannot promise that Day Park will not try to arrest you the moment he sees you. I understand. but I have to try. As they made plans for approaching the council, none of them noticed the figure watching from outside Dr. Kim's window. Day. Park had been making his own rounds when he saw the lights. He had heard enough of their conversation to know that the missing girl had returned. And she had returned with what sounded like a fantastic story. Designed to make them trust the very creature that had taken her, he slipped away into the darkness, his hand on his weapon. The council would hear about this, but not from Dr. Kim. They would hear it from him, along with his recommendation for how to handle the situation. The creature's hold over the girl was stronger than he had thought, but it was not too late to save her. All he had to do was eliminate the source of the problem. Tomorrow, he would organize the largest hunting party in the colony's history. And this time, they would not let the girl's presence stop them from doing what needed to be done. The beast would die, and the girl would be free of its influence. He was sure of it. The council meeting was a disaster from the moment Hannah walked into the room. Day. Park was waiting for her with 6 armed guards. The moment she entered, they raised their weapons and surrounded her. Day, Park said in his official voice. You are under arrest for conspiracy with hostile alien forces and endangering the safety of this colony. Wait, Dr. Kim stepped forward. She has information we need to hear. Evidence of a threat to all of us. The only threat here is the creature that has brainwashed your daughter, Day, Park replied. Look at her. She has been missing for weeks, living with a predator that could have killed her at any time, yet she defends it. That is not natural. Behavior, Sora Choi, the colony leader, held up her hand for silence. Let her speak. If she has lost her mind, it will be obvious. If she has not, we need to know what she learned out there. Hannah stepped forward, trying to ignore the weapons pointed at her. The creature you are afraid of is named Roku. He is not just an animal. He is the last guardian of the civilization that once lived on this world. Several council members laughed. A civilization, one of them said. We have mapped this entire continent. There are no signs of any advanced civilization, because it was destroyed thousands of years ago by something called the Devourers. They consume entire worlds, stripping away everything living. And they are coming here because our ship's energy signature attracted them. Hannah activated her scanner and projected the images she had recorded in the ancient city. The room fell silent as they watched the history of Cathara unfold. The crystal cities, the war with the Devourers, the desperate decision to go into stasis and wait. These could be fake, Daypark said, but his voice lacked conviction. The images were too detailed, too alien to be human fabrications. The energy. Readings are real, Dr. Kim said, studying the data. I have verified them myself. Something with massive power output is moving toward our system. Even if this is true, Sora said, what can we do about it? We are colonists, not warriors. Roku's people have been waiting for this day. There are hundreds of them in stasis chambers beneath the planet's surface. They have technology and weapons, designed specifically to fight the Devourers. But they need help to wake up. Help from us? Another council member asked. Help from me. I have formed a mental bond with Roku that allows us to communicate across species barriers. His people never learned to do that, which is why they lost the first war. But together, we can wake them up and coordinate our defenses. Day Park slammed his fist on the table. This is exactly what I was afraid of. The creature has not just brainwashed her. It has turned her into some kind of alien collaborator. I am trying to save your lives. Hannah shot back. All of your lives. By trusting a monster that could crush this entire colony. Could have done that already if he wanted to. He has had weeks to attack us, but he is not because he knows I care about you people. The argument was interrupted by a low rumble that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The building shook slightly, and several people looked up at the ceiling in alarm. What was that? Sora asked. Hannah felt her heart sink. Through her connection with Roku, she could sense his distress and anger. You have to let me go to him, right now. Why? Daypark demanded. Because your hunting parties have found him. He thinks I am in danger. Before anyone could react, the rumble came again, closer this time. Through the windows, they could see energy weapon fire lighting up the forest. The guards are attacking him, Hannah said. If you do not let me stop this, he will fight back. And if he fights back, people are going to die. Daypark grabbed his radio. All units report. What is your status? Static answered him for several seconds. Then a panicked voice came through. Sir, we found the creature. It is huge. Our weapons are not even scratching it. Request immediate backup. More energy weapon fire flashed outside the windows. The rumbling sound came again, and this time they could hear something else beneath it. The sound of trees falling. He is coming here. Hannah said, he can sense that I am trapped and he thinks you are hurting me. All the more reason to keep you away from it, Daypark said. But he was looking nervous now. The building shook again as something very large moved through the forest toward the colony. Through the windows, they could see colonists running for shelter. Parents grabbed their children and rushed toward the underground bunkers. The security alarms were wailing. This is what happens when you try to fight him, Hannah said. He does not want to hurt anyone, but he will not let harm come to me. Let me go to him and I can calm him down. Absolutely not, Daypark said. Guards, take her to the detention cells. We will deal with the creature using proper military tactics. Dick. Before the guards could move, the wall of the council building exploded inward. Roku's massive head pushed through the gap, his blue eyes blazing with protective fury. His crystal scales were scarred from energy weapon hits, but he seemed otherwise unhurt. Everyone in the room except Hannah screamed and dove for cover. Roku's gaze swept the room until it found her, surrounded by armed guards. The sound he made was like nothing Hannah had ever heard from him before. It was pure rage, the roar of a guardian protecting his family. The windows shattered from the force of it. Roku, stop, Hannah shouted. I'm not hurt. These people are not enemies. But Roku could see the weapons pointed at her. He could sense her fear and stress through their mental link. As far as he was concerned, she was being threatened by hostile aliens. He reached into the room with one massive claw, moving toward the guards who were pointing their weapons at Hannah. His intention was clear: remove the threat to his bonded partner. No. Hannah threw herself between Roku's claw and the guards. Do not hurt them. They are confused and scared, but they are not evil. Roku stopped, his claw just inches from the nearest guard. Through their connection, Hannah poured all of her feelings into his mind. Her love for her father and Minho, her concern for the other colonists, her desperate need for peace between their peoples. Slowly, Roku pulled his claw back. The rage faded from his eyes, replaced by confusion and hurt. He had come to rescue her, but she was protecting the very people who had been threatening her. No, it does not make sense, she said, placing her hand on his snout. But these are my people, just like your sleeping guardians are your people. We have to find a way to work together. The room was completely silent except for the sound of falling debris. Everyone was staring at the massive predator that had just stopped its attack because a human girl had asked it to. Finally, Sora Choi stood up slowly. It really does understand you. Yes, and he understands all of you too. Even if he cannot speak your language, he knows you are afraid of him. He knows you see him as a monster. But he is willing to protect you anyway because I asked him to. Daypark lowered his weapon, though his hands were shaking. That thing could have killed us all, but he did not. Even when he thought I was in danger, he stopped when I asked him to. That is not the behavior of a mindless predator. Through the hole in the wall, they could see more lights in the sky. Not the familiar stars, but new lights that moved in patterns no natural object could follow. The Devourers, Hannah said. They are here. But the lights were getting brighter, bigger, whatever. Was coming was massive beyond imagination. We are out of time, Hannah said. Roku and I have to reach the awakening chambers now, before the attack begins. It is our only chance. Sora looked at the approaching lights, then at Roku's calm blue eyes, then at Hannah's determined face. Go, she said. Do what you have to do. Day. Park started to object, but Sora cut him off. Look at the sky, Commander. Whatever's coming, our conventional weapons will not stop it. If this girl and her creature have a plan, it is the only hope we have. Roku lowered his head and Hannah climbed onto his neck. Through their link, she felt his relief and determination. They were together again, and they had work to do. As Roku leaped through the hole in the wall and bounded toward the forest, Hannah looked back at the colony one last time. The people there looked so small and fragile beneath the alien lights in the sky, but they were not defenseless. It's not anymore. In a few hours, if everything went according to plan, it would have the most powerful allies in the galaxy. The question was whether they would have enough time to wake them up. The Devourer's ships were even more terrible than the ancient images had shown. They hung in the sky like diseased moons, each one the size of a mountain. Their surfaces writhed with organic movement, as if the ships themselves were alive and hungry. Smaller craft detached from the main bodies and dove toward the planet's surface like metallic insects. Hannah and Roku raced through the forest toward the ancient city. Behind them, the colony's energy weapons lit up the night sky as they tried to fight off the scout ships. The weapons did no damage that Hannah could see. "We have to hurry," she told Roku as they leaped over a fallen tree. "The main attack will start soon." They reached the ruined city in record time. The awakening chamber was exactly as they had left it, but now the crystal walls were pulsing with urgent light. The ancient systems had detected the approaching threat. Roku placed his head against the control panel and began the awakening sequence. But instead of the smooth process Hannah had expected, alarms began to sound throughout the chamber. "What is wrong?" she asked. Through their mental link, Roku shared his confusion and growing panic. The awakening system was designed to revive the sleeping Kithrans gradually, over a period of days. But the Devourers were already here. They needed the Guardians awake now. "Can you force the process?" Hannah asked. "Make it go faster?" Roku's response was filled with fear. Forcing the awakening could kill the sleepers. Their bodies had been in stasis for thousands of years. Shocking them awake too quickly might stop their hearts or damage their minds. But if we do not wake them now, the Devourers will kill them anyway, Hannah pointed out. At least this way, they have a chance to fight. Roku made his decision. I pressed his claws against multiple control panels and began pouring his own life energy into the awakening system. The chamber filled with blinding light as power flowed through circuits that had been dormant for millennia. Deep beneath the city, hundreds of stasis pods cracked open. The sleepers inside began to stir, their crystal scales brightening as life returned to their bodies, but the effort was killing Roku. Hannah could feel his strength draining away. Through their mental connection, he was giving everything he had to save his people. "Stop," she said. "You are hurting yourself, must." "Wake them," Roku gasped, his mental voice weak. Only ... hope. The first of the awakened guardians appeared in the chamber doorway. It was smaller than Roku, with 4 legs instead of 6, and scales that were more silver than crystal. But its eyes held the same ancient intelligence. It spoke in a language that sounded like wind chimes and falling water. Roku answered in the same tongue, his voice getting weaker with each word. "What are you saying?" Hannah asked. The new guardian looked at her with surprise. It had never seen a human before. When it spoke again, its mental voice was like a whisper. In her mind, "You are the bridge builder. The one who taught our brother to speak across the void between minds." "Brother?" Hannah looked at Roku, who was still pouring energy into the awakening systems. "We are all brothers and sisters in the great family of Cathara, but he is the first to find kinship with an alien mind. This makes him special among us, or guardians. We're arriving, each one different, but all clearly related to Roku. They moved with the same fluid grace, and their eyes held the same deep intelligence. The Devourers are here," Hannah said. "We need to coordinate our defense with the human colony." "Humans." The guardian tilted its head. "The small builders who fell from the sky. They are my people. They are not warriors, but they have weapons and technology that might help." The guardian studied her carefully. "You would fight beside us? Even though we are not your species?" "Of course. We are all living beings on this world. Have to protect each other." Above them, the sound of explosions echoed through the chamber. The Devourer scout ships had found the colony. "The battle has begun," the Guardian said. "Oh. But our brother is too weak to fight. He has given too much of himself to wake us." Roku was barely conscious now, his massive body slumped against the control panels. But he was still trying to pour energy into the system, still trying to wake more of his people. "There has to be another way," Hannah said. "Some other power source." The Guardian's eyes widened. "There is. The crystal formations throughout the city, they store starlight and convert it to life energy. But someone would have to carry that energy to the sleepers. Someone who could bridge the gap between our minds and theirs." "I can do it," Hannah said immediately. "No," Roku whispered. "Too dangerous. The energy would burn you alive. Not if I had help. Not if I had a Guardian to share the load." She looked at the other Guardian. "Can you link with me the way Roku does? Can you help me carry the energy? I've never bonded with an alien mind." "Before," the Guardian said, "but I can try." Anna placed her hand on the Guardian's snout. The mental connection was different from her bond with Roku, weaker and more uncertain. But it was there. Together, they moved to the crystal formations that lined the chamber walls. The crystals were warm to the touch and pulsed with stored sunlight. Hannah pressed her palms against them and opened her mind to the energy flow. It was like being struck by lightning. Power flowed through her body and into the Guardian, who channeled it into the awakening systems. The sensation was overwhelming, but she held on. Using her connection with Roku as an anchor all around the chamber, the awakening alarms grew louder. More stasis pods were opening throughout the city. The remaining Kithrans were waking up after their long sleep, but the effort was too much for Hannah's human body. She felt herself beginning to collapse as the energy burned through her nervous system. "I cannot hold it," she gasped. "You must," the Guardian said. "Just a little longer."
Ow.
Through the crystal walls, they could see the battle raging outside. Devour. Ships were landing throughout the forest, disgorging their hungry crews. The colony's energy weapons were having some effect on the smaller ships, but the big ones were still untouchable. Then something changed. The awakened Guardians began to emerge from the underground chambers, their crystal scales blazing with inner light. They were different from Roku and his new partner. Some had wings, others had tentacles instead of legs. But all of them moved with deadly purpose. The battle turned immediately. The Guardians had weapons that could hurt the Devourer's energy, blasts that seemed to come from their own bodies, and a kind of psychic attack that made the enemy ships writhe and retreat. But there were two. Many Devourers and too few Guardians. For every enemy ship that fell, two more took its place. "We need the humans," Hannah said. "Their weapons and our powers together." The Guardian nodded. "But how do we coordinate? They cannot speak our language and we cannot speak theirs." "Through me, I can translate for both sides." Using the last of her strength, Hannah opened her mind to every Guardian in the city. The sensation was like being connected to a vast network of alien thoughts. She could feel their confusion, their fear, their determination to protect their homeworld at the same time. She reached out with her portable radio and contacted the colony. "This is Hannah Kim. Can anyone hear me?" "Hannah," it was Minho's voice. "Where are you? The entire sky is full of those ships." "I am in the ancient city with the Guardians. We are trying to coordinate a defense. I need you to patch me through too. The colony's command center." "Hold on." A moment later, Daypark's voice came through the radio. "This is Colony Command. What is your status?" "The Guardians are awake and fighting, but we need to work together. I can translate between our species, but I need real-time communication." "Understood. What do you need?" Through her connection with the Guardians, Hannah could see the entire battle from multiple perspectives. The Devourers were focusing there. Main attack on the colony, trying to eliminate the humans first, but the Guardians were harassing their flanks, forcing them to divide their attention. "Target the ship in Grid 77, she said. "The Guardians are going to hit it with everything they have. You can time your attack with theirs." The combined assault was devastating. Human energy weapons struck the Devourer's ship at the same moment as Guardian psychic blasts. The ship's organic armor couldn't handle both types of attack at once. It crashed into the forest in a blaze of alien fire. It worked, Day said. The combination of our weapons and theirs. For the next hour, Hannah served as the bridge between two species. She translated targeting information and battle plans, coordinated attacks and defensive strategies. The Guardians learned to trust human technology, while the humans learned to work with alien tactics. But the battle was taking its toll. More Devourer ships kept arriving, and both sides were running low on energy and ammunition. There are too many of them, Roku said weakly. He'd recovered enough to join the fight, but Hannah could feel his exhaustion through their bond. Main ships, one of the Guardians said. If we could destroy the motherships, the smaller ones would retreat. But how? Hannah asked. Those ships are too big and too well protected. Someone would have to get inside, Roku said. Destroy them from within. That's a suicide mission, Day said over the radio. Not if we work together, Hannah replied. The Guardians can get close to the ships using their psychic abilities. The humans can provide covering fire and technical support, and I can coordinate the whole thing. It's too dangerous, Minho protested. Hannah, you have done enough. Let someone else take the risk. There is no one else, she said simply. I am the only one who can speak to both species, and Roku is the strongest of the Guardians. If anyone can reach those ships, it's us. The plan was desperate, but it was their only chance. While the other Guardians and the human forces provided distraction, Roku carried Hannah directly toward the largest Devourer mothership. The ship was a living nightmare, its surface covered in mouths and eyes and grasping tentacles. It fired organic weapons at them, spitting acid and launching parasitic creatures that tried to attach themselves to Roku's body. But Roku was faster and smarter than the ship's defenses expected. He used his psychic abilities to confuse the targeting systems while Hannah coordinated with the colony to provide covering fire at just the right moments. They reached the ship's surface and found an opening that looked like a wound in the organic hull. Roku squeezed inside, carrying Hannah with him. The interior of the ship was worse than the outside, was alive in the most horrible way, with walls that pulsed like a heartbeat and floors that tried to digest their feet. The air was thick with poisonous spores. The control center, Hannah said, trying not to breathe too deeply. We have to find the brain of this thing. They fought their way through corridors full of Devourer creatures. Roku's claws and energy. Blasts cleared the path while Hannah guided him toward the ship's central nervous system. When they found it, Hannah almost threw up. The control center was a massive brain suspended in green fluid, surrounded by tentacles that reached into every part of the ship. How do we destroy it? She asked. Roku placed his claws against the brain's surface and began to channel all of his remaining energy into it. Not to control it, but to overload it. To burn out its circuits with pure life force. The brain began to convulse, and the entire ship shuddered around them. But the effort was killing Roku. Hannah could feel his life force draining away through their connection. Stop, she said. You are going to die. Must save everyone. Roku gasped. Without thinking, Hannah placed her hands on Roku's head and opened her mind completely to their bond. She poured her own life energy into him, sharing her strength so he could finish the job. The brain exploded in a shower of green sparks. Throughout the ship, systems began to fail. The Devourer creatures collapsed as their controlling intelligence died, but the explosion had damaged the ship's structure. The walls were collapsing, and the hull was beginning to break apart. We have to get out of here, Hannah said. Roku tried to move, but he was too weak. The effort of destroying the brain had used up everything he had left. Go, he whispered. Save yourself. No, Hannah said firmly. I am not leaving you. We are family, remember. Brothers and sisters, stick together. She helped him to his feet, and together they struggled toward the exit. The ship was falling apart around them, but they kept moving. Roku's strength was almost gone, but Hannah's determination kept them both going. They reached the hull opening. Just as the ship began its final death spiral toward the planet's surface, Roku used the last of his power to leap clear, carrying Hannah with him. They fell through the sky together, guardian and human, brother and sister. Below them, the mothership crashed into the forest in an explosion that lit up the night. All around them, the other Devourer ships were retreating. With their command vessel destroyed, they had lost the coordination they needed to continue the attack. Roku and Hannah landed hard in a clearing near the colony. Roku's body was still, his crystal scales dim. Hannah crawled to his head and placed her hand on his snout. "Roku, can you hear me?" His eyes opened slowly, glowing with faint blue light. Did we win?" "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her face. "We won. The Devourers are gone." "Good," he whispered. "My people, are they safe?" Through her connection with the other Guardians, Hannah could sense their joy and relief. They were gathering in the colony, working with the humans to treat the wounded and repair the damage. "They are safe," she said. "All of them, and they are making friends with my people." Roku made that purring sound one last time, then his eyes closed and his breathing stopped. "No," Hannah whispered. "Please, no." But as she knelt beside his still form, she felt something she had not expected. The mental bond between them was not broken. It was changing, becoming something new. All around the clearing, the other Guardians were arriving. They surrounded Roku's body and began to sing. It was not a song that human ears could hear, but Hannah felt it through her mental connection with them. It was a song of honor and remembrance, of sacrifice and love. A song for a Guardian who had given everything to protect both his people and the strangers who had become his family. As they sang, Roku's crystal scales began to glow again, not with life, but with something else. Memory, legacy, the essence of who he had been and what he had meant to others. The glow spread from his body to the other Guardians, and from them to Hannah. She felt Roku's presence one last time, not as a living mind, but as a warm feeling of love and approval. "Thank you," his voice whispered in her thoughts, "for showing me what it means to have a sister." Then the glow faded, but the warmth remained. And Hannah understood that while Roku was gone, the bond they had shared would live on in every connection between human and Guardian. Every friendship between species, every act of trust across the void between different minds. Dr. Jin Kim found her there hours later, sitting beside Roku's still form with tears on her face and a smile on her lips. "Hannah," he said gently, "it is time to come home." She looked up at him, then at the Guardians who had become her extended family. Then at the colony in the distance where humans and Kithrans were working together to rebuild what the battle had damaged. "I am home," she said. "We all are." In the days that followed, the colony and the Guardians built something new together. It's not just an alliance between species, but a true partnership. Humans shared their technology and adaptability. Guardians shared their knowledge and wisdom. And at the center of it all, connecting both sides, were the bridge builders like Hannah, who could speak the language of both heart and mind. The Devourers did not return. Word spread through the galaxy that Cathara was defended by something they had never encountered before, two intelligent species working as one, each making the other stronger. Hannah became the first human Guardian ambassador, teaching others how to form the mental bonds that made cooperation possible. Minho learned to work with Guardian engineers, building new cities that combined the best of both technologies. Despark came to respect the Guardians, though he never quite got comfortable around the larger ones. And in the center of the new capital city, human and Guardian children built a monument to Roku, not a statue or a building, but a living crystal that grew taller each year, fed by the combined energy of two species working together. Sometimes, when Hannah placed her hand on the crystal, she could still feel an echo of that first mental touch in the forest. The moment when a human and a Guardian had looked past their differences and chosen to trust each other. It was the moment when two species became one family, and that family would endure long after the stars themselves had forgotten the taste of fear.